Yo, here's a video. Here's a video. This your boy VMO. Coolest voice on YouTube. See the timeline? That's from wearing that headband. Yo, check this out. There's a video with RG3 talking about Shedeur. You know, RG3 used to be a quarterback in the NFL for 2 different teams. He know what he's talking about. I really believe, you know what I'm saying, he know what he's saying on his reporting. Check this video out. If you like it, please comment, subscribe, and shout out to RG3 to his podcast, Out of Pocket. It's your boy, VMO.
To next, because we do bring guests on this show and what you want us to talk about, and we will make sure that happens for you. Today we got a juicy episode for you. You're gonna learn a whole lot about the things that people don't want to talk about when it comes to sports and entertainment. So let's go ahead and get this thing crack-a-lacking.
RG gonna break it down.
Our first topic today is Shedeur Sanders and the tumultuous NFL draft. Shedeur lost over $40 million after dropping out of the top 3 picks all the way to 144th pick, where he went to the Cleveland Browns in the 5th round. Now, everyone has shared their opinion on it, and many have come out to bury him with the different stories. But when it comes to football, what do you think of the Cleveland Browns QB situation?
Oh, it's horrible. It's absolutely terrible situation for a quarterback to be in. Let's get real, people, here. All right? This is the thing that nobody wants to talk about. Shedeur Sanders is in a situation where the NFL and the Cleveland Browns have set him up to sink or swim in year 1. What I really mean by that is they set him up to fail. Shedeur Sanders is the 4th quarterback on the Cleveland Browns roster, but let me talk to you about the other guys that they have on the roster. Joe Flacco, the de facto starter that everyone with a football brain believes will be their starting quarterback, barring injury, is a Super Bowl champion and Super Bowl MVP. Yes, I know he's 40 years old, but they just brought him in this offseason before they drafted Shedeur Sanders. The next quarterback, Kenny Pickett, yes, he's been on 2 other teams, but guess what? The Cleveland Browns traded for him this offseason. That gives you 2 quarterbacks with experience on the roster that you would think this is the de facto starter and the de facto backup. But not only that, they didn't just bring in Joe Flacco, the Super Bowl champ and Super Bowl MVP. They didn't just trade for Kenny Pickett. They also drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round by the name of Dillon Gabriel. Now, Dillon Gabriel is one of the most electrifying and most stat-driven quarterbacks in all of college football history. I believe he has the most starts of any college quarterback ever. And it's because he played 6 years of college football. You went to UCF, played at Oklahoma, and also was at Oregon. They drafted Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round of the same draft that they took Shedeur Sanders. So no one wants to talk about this because it's a very difficult topic. Shedeur Sanders is a 5th round pick. Guys that are drafted in the 5th round typically don't make NFL rosters. And if they do make NFL rosters, it was because they showed their absolute talent in the preseason and all through training camp and the offseason. But here's the difference. Most of those guys weren't quarterbacks. Most of those guys weren't fighting to be the 3rd or 4th quarterback on the roster. Shedeur Sanders is at a position at quarterback where only one guy gets to play. If you're a 5th round receiver, you got a chance to make the team. You just got to go out there and show out. And a lot of times you're going to get opportunities with the 1s and the 2s because of injuries, hamstrings, ankles, those type of soft tissue injuries that pop up. But at quarterback, that typically doesn't happen. So for Shedeur Sanders, you have to understand that this guy is going to be going into the offseason.
And the Cleveland Browns know this. The Cleveland Browns know this. Promise you. They know this. That's why they picked him that way.
All the quarterbacks on the Cleveland Browns roster. He's going to be going into training camp, getting the fewest reps of all the quarterbacks on the Cleveland Browns roster. And then when you go into the preseason, he's going to be getting the fewest reps and the fewest plays of all the quarterbacks on the roster. But let's say he does get some plays. We all know that the preseason, if you didn't know, let me explain to you. The NFL preseason is shorter now, so you only have 3 games. So if Shedeur Sanders is in the game as the 4th quarterback, he's probably, definitely not playing with the number 1 or the number 2s. That's offensive linemen, running backs, wide receivers, everything you can possibly imagine. I had 2 coaches in my career, Mike Shanahan and Jay Gruden. Coach Shanahan and Coach Gruden would call the guys in the 3s and the 4s cab drivers. Now, I'm not saying I agreed with the way that they characterized these guys, but they would call them cab drivers because everybody in the building knew that most of those guys would not be playing in the NFL past the end of that preseason. So not only is Shedeur Sanders going in as the 4th quarterback, having to try to beat out 2 veterans and a rookie that was drafted before him, not only is Shedeur Sanders going to be going out there and have the fewest amount of reps of all the guys when he has to prove and earn his way onto the roster, Shedeur Sanders is going to be out there with cab drivers. He's going to be getting protected by guys who are not going to be playing in the NFL, throwing to guys who are probably not going to be playing in the NFL, and handing the football off to running backs that are probably not going to be playing in the NFL. The biggest takeaway there for me is he's going to be relying on guys who will not be playing in the NFL to protect his NFL dream. No one wants to talk about that right now, and I know why. Listen, I know the man that Shedeur Sanders is. I know the man that Deion Sanders is. I have a great relationship with them. This is not about Shedeur's talent because, as I've stated before, he should have been a 1st-round pick. That's what his tape said, regardless of the name on the back of his jersey. But the reality of the situation is they are setting him up to fail. A lot of people think that this confident young man needs to be humbled. There is no better way for someone to try to humble somebody by having them not make an NFL roster and make it as hard as possible for them to make that NFL roster. I don't think that's right. The solution for Shedeur Sanders, because we don't just like to talk about what's happening, we like to give solutions. The solutions for him is he's going to have to work 4 times harder than everybody else in the building. What he's trying to prove to the Cleveland Browns is not only should you keep me on this roster, and I don't mean practice squad, I mean the actual 53-man roster. The reason you should keep me on this roster is because I am the best quarterback on your roster. And he's going to have to do that with less reps, with lesser talent around him, lesser protection around him, and less time on task with the coaches. That's the bottom line. It's not just the fact that they drafted Dillon Gabriel in front of him. It's not just the fact that they traded for Kenny Pickett this offseason. It's not just the fact that they signed Super Bowl MVP and Super Bowl champion Joe Flacco to be their de facto starter. It's the fact that Shedeur Sanders is really the show in Cleveland right now. He is the show. He has the number 1 selling jersey of all rookies, and he was drafted in the 5th round. He goes to a local high school, and he speaks to the students, and it makes the news. Why? Because he's a popular player. Your 4th-string quarterback in this moment is your most popular player on the team. That can be a problem for the other quarterbacks. That can be a problem for the organization. But all Shedeur Sanders has to do is go put in the extra work that he already always does.
Hope he do.
There's
too,
a video
man.
circulating on the internet right now of
too.
him already being in Cleveland and lunging up a hill and working on his craft, because that's nothing new. That is who Shedeur Sanders is. So if you hear some stories about a production meeting or something else that didn't happen or did happen, and the guy didn't like it, he didn't have access to Shedeur Sanders, that's not the Shedeur Sanders that I've come to know. That's not the Shedeur Sanders that his teammates have come to know. They know the guy that puts in the extra work. And now in Cleveland, he's got to put in more extra work than he could ever possibly imagine. But he's ready for it. And the reason he's ready for it is because he went to Jackson State. He went to an HBCU, and he had lesser protection around him. He went to Colorado, a school that nobody wanted to go to, that only had one win the previous season, and he had lesser protection. And he led them to 3 more wins in year 1, and he led them to 8 more wins in year 2. Shedeur Sanders is prepared more than any other quarterback in this draft to have to deal with this situation. And I think Deion Sanders taking him to Jackson State and taking him to Colorado has toughened this young man that he will swim in this environment when he's in shark-infested waters. There's a lot of people that want to see this young man fail. Him being the 4th quarterback on that Browns roster is a setup to fail. But if there was any quarterback that could succeed, it would be Shedeur Sanders.